Something fantastic happened at the weekend. I'd love to have been there because I'm quite loud and I like a good shout and I love a town crier. So I'm delighted to welcome to Talk Radio David Hinde, Helmsley's official town crier, because Helmsley held something very special indeed at the weekend. Oh, yay! Didn't you, David? Good morning. How you doing?
Yes, morning, Paul. Hi.
Hope I haven't woken up the neighbours there with my attempt at a town cry, but I'm sure I'm quite quiet.
It was
compared
very good. Very good.
Tell us about what happened in Helmsley. It was a big get-together of town criers from all over the world, wasn't it? What was the point of it?
Absolutely, yes. This was Helmsley's very first national town crier competition, but it brought in overseas criers from Bermuda and Nova Scotia. And it was a big gathering in the Helmsley walled garden with a superb backdrop of Helmsley Castle behind it. And we came together, brought all these criers from all over the country to take part in the competition, where they were judged on their volume, their diction, their clarity, and their inflection, doing calls, cries in the morning about their hometown, and in the afternoon about the special cry that we'd set for them, which was all about Helmsley, Robert de Roos, and the Magna Carta.
Okay, so how many of you bad boys and girls got together? Were there women there as well?
Yes, there were two lady criers, as well as, and obviously, about 10 consorts, 9 of which were ladies and one male consort for one of the lady criers. And they were in their beautiful regalia, all the colours, very colourful events these, of course. And we paraded from the marketplace in Helmsley, across the main, past all the shops, up past the Castle Visitor Centre, into the garden, and down a fabulous herbaceous borders that this Helmsley Wall Garden have. And there's some superb pictures out there of the group of criers coming through to the performance area.
And how many were there altogether? How many entrants?
Yeah, in total there were 20 entrants for the competition. And that's the biggest town crier competition in Yorkshire, in this part of the north East England, for decades. It really is. And to have 2 international criers be prepared to come in to Gatwick and drive all the way here and take part with us, it's just the icing on the cake, Paul.
And where does your town crier career come from? What was your interest in it? How long have you been doing it, David?
Well, I've always had a loud singing voice. I've been a bass baritone with amateur operatic and dramatic societies in York, Scarborough and Moulton. And even as a teenager, my dad would say, David, the neighbours, when I used to sing Blue Spanish Eyes at the top of my voice. So an opportunity came in 2012 for me to apply to be a town crier, and I got that role. And I started, obviously, researching the history of town criers and finding the best ways to bring that across to the public. I've taken part, obviously, in the Dad's Army movie in 2013 as a Warmington-on-Sea town crier, and special things like that have happened in the 6 years that I've been a crier. And I'm very, very proud, of course, to be working with the Helmsley in Business team, because we're very much a team in Helmsley, between the small businesses and myself, to promote the town, with its Visit Helmsley website and everything. And, of course, bring into attention special events such as the Town Crier competition, which had hundreds of people watching it both at the Walled Garden and in the town centre.
I saw photographs of it over the weekend, and it does look remarkable. How far back do town criers date? They look kind of 17th, 18th century with the tricorn hats and those. Must have been boiling hot at the weekend in Helmsley. You've got those heavy old coats on.
Oh, yes, it was absolutely scorching, Paul. But, yes, the tradition goes back even further than that. It goes back to the time of William the Conqueror, when he appointed criers for the towns, because he needed somebody who could, A, speak English, secondly, to bring that message across to the people who a lot of them, basically most of the people couldn't read and write. So the only way that they could hear what the laws that were being passed, and obviously the things such as birth, marriages, deaths, etc., and all the administration that he needed to have, he appointed them as part of the royal court. And they were sent out there to give messages out, good and bad, and be able to react and interact with those villagers. And over time, obviously, the city councils and the town councils took the criers on board, and obviously the role has evolved to the modern day that we see it now. But many of the criers, as you quite rightly say, have got 17th century coachman-type outfits on. We did have, of course, the Nova Scotia crier there who was in his kilt.
Whoa! So he had a bit of ventilation, a bit of air conditioning for himself.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
who judged the competition? Were you allowed to enter, or as it was on your patch, were you kind of out of it?
No, I had to host it as part of the Ancient and Honourable Guild of Town Criers. My role when I'm a host crier is to draw all the organisation together in conjunction with Helmsley and Business, and to organise for their accommodation and all their needs during their time in Helmsley, and then to, at the event, to do a benchmark cry which sets the level for the judges. If they're marking out of 25 on all those different attributes that I mentioned earlier, yep, they would try and set my cry at about 16 points out of 25, and then judge the other cries against below or above that. And I had to do that both in the morning and the afternoon. And of course, I also, as each crier was waiting, I had to say, and the next crier is, of course, from representing his town or her town, this is from for instance, Ilfracombe in Devon. They travelled a long way, and his consort is here, B. That was right the way through. I also had to introduce people like the manager of the Wall Garden, who needed to tell people all about the evolution of the garden from being part of the castle to its very much a community role, and indeed the fact that they were hosting the event and that people had donated because of the good work of the Wall Garden. So it was very much an all-day job for me. My voice was in constant use.
Well, that's what I was saying. How did your voice hold up? Have you got any special tricks you do the night before? Do you drink tea without milk and honey or anything? How do you make your voice stronger?
I try to loosen it up as you would a singer, with using from your diaphragm, using the voice exercises you would do for singing. But also, I would tend to have honey-based drinks before and after, because obviously there is a recovery period as well for the next day after that, where you need to make sure your voice is alive.
And have you ever had your voice measured, or did anybody measure the decibels uttered by some of these people?
Yes.
How loud did you get?
One of the things I was very keen to do, Paul, was that there'd been a record, a Guinness Book of Records in place for 21 years, and it had been held by the Crier for Gloucester. But when I inquired from the Guinness Book of Records, the record had been frozen. In other words, nobody else was going to be able to do the town crier record. It had to be the world's loudest shout.
Right.
But what I did say to them was, if I did exceed it, well, I would be obviously technically correct in saying that I would be the world's loudest recorded town cry. And so I brought in a sound company called Cirrus Research. We went to Suerby Park. You had to be 2.5 metres away from the recording source. The recording source had to be 2.5 metres above the ground and nothing above to enhance it. And I was recorded at 114.8 decibels.
Sorry, say that again? I was saying there were no
114.8 decibels, which was 2 decibels louder than the 112.8 Guinness Book of Records.
So we're talking to a record breaker. You're louder, I think, than a jumbo jet taking off. There you are. That is astonishing.
It was a great occasion, and of course we'd had previously a royal visit to. It was a priory at Bridlington, and I was part of the 900-year celebrations of that. And Prince Charles came along to that event, and I was introduced to him. And he asked me about the role of criers, and turned back and said, "Of course, a big voice, eh?" And he obviously had been briefed that I was going to do the record attempt.
Okay, the big question is then, who won, David? Who got the prize? Who got the crown? Who's taken home the title this year?
Ed Christopher, the City of Hamilton town crier. He's been a town crier for over 20 years there. He does all the walking tours of the City of Hamilton. A great charismatic figure, 6'7" tall. And he delivers his cry not only in volume and clarity and depth, but also with a swagger and a bit of cheeky performance, which adds to that. The crowd absolutely loved him, And he walked away with the Best Dressed Crier award as well. We had judges sitting 30 metres away, which is quite a long distance away, and it was resonating in the valley. You could hear it echoing back off the natural amphitheatre that was around and the walls of the walled garden. It was absolutely fabulous.
And was that a chap who came from Hamilton in Bermuda, all the way from Bermuda?
Hamilton in Bermuda, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Ed Christopher. And, it's I'll be competing against Ed next weekend because there's 3 competitions in Devon, Salcombe, Kingsbridge and Dartmouth. Last year I won 2 out of the 3 of the individual competitions. Right. I won the overall Sir Francis Drake Trophy, the Armada Cup. But I've just beaten Ed narrowly on that occasion, but this time, obviously, Ed's on a winning streak and his confidence is going to be up. So it's going to be quite a battle, really, down in Devon, and I look forward to it, Paul.
Listen, good luck to both of you. Good luck to everybody taking part. Let me ask you a question, David. David, come here. David, are you on your own at the house in the moment, and are you a long way away from any neighbours? Are you in a detached area? Do you live in a farmhouse, a remote part of the UK, of the North Yorkshire Moors?
Yeah, I live in quite a quiet village, but I'm also quite a distance. Would you like me to do a cry?
That's what I was going to ask. Could you, maybe wake up my listeners who sometimes get a bit dopey and dozy and give them a big old oh yay? So tell them they're listening to Paul Ross on Talk Radio in your own time.
Yeah. To Paul Ross on Talk Radio, the best show on the radio. God save the Queen.
Wow, that was fantastic. You get the vote in my book, David. You've been a wonderful guest. Have a wonderful time this weekend in Devon. We'll talk again at some stage. David Hinde there. What a top chap. Helmsley's official town crier on the North Yorkshire Moors and that wonderful park up there. Talking about the event last weekend, won by a chap from Bermuda, and other events in Devon this weekend on Talk Radio. Oh, yay.